Posted. Hi friends. If you're watching the rewatch, hello. There's not many people are on here just yet. Did not plan this live. It was a spur of the moment live situation. I've got my phone on my sync wire phone mount in my van. I just dropped my dad off at the airport. He spent the last week with us. Unfortunately, I was sick most of that trip. And then one by one, my kids got whatever virus I had. So it's still working its way through the house, but my father managed to stay well this trip and he did not get sick. But unfortunately, we weren't able to do a whole lot because of illness. My kids stayed healthy all winter, and then sickness hit the week my dad came for a visit, so that was kind of a bummer. Hi! If you're hopping on here, say hello, leave me a comment, and hit the thumbs up button, give it a like, and that will help this live get out in the algorithm. And we're just hanging out here. I've got some time to kill. I've got a few hours to kill. I drove over to Medford to bring my dad to the airport, and I have a doctor's appointment in Grants Pass today, so that's not until later today, later this afternoon. So I've got some time to kill here, and I'm sitting in the Target parking lot. I boycotted Target a long time ago. And I thought, well, I'll run into Target while I have time to kill. But I pulled into the parking lot and decided I don't really feel like shopping or browsing or doing anything like that right now. I don't feel like doing anything. What I really want to do is go lay down in the back of the van and take a nap. I told Aaron I had 2 or 3 days I was in bed sick, and I'm still symptomatic, but I no longer have a fever. So I still have lots of crud and still coughing and still with the voice, but my fever has subsided, so no more fever. I'm just battling the ick still. So I'm exhausted. I had a couple days in bed while my dad was visiting, and the moment I was able to get out of bed and take care of my family, I did. And through the ick and through the sickness, I was up taking care of my family. Aaron went out of town while my dad was in town, so he had a few days that he was gone. So it was up to me to take care of everybody and feed everybody and rest in between meals. So that's what I do. Give this a thumbs up if you guys are just hopping on here. There's lots of you here now, so just click the little thumbs up button. Hi, Katie. Hi, Sarah. How am I feeling? I'm feeling a lot better than I was. Still with the ick. And one by one, my kids have gotten knocked down with it also. So my dad's trip consisted of just hanging out with us at the house while we were going through the sickness. One of the kids ended up with a healthy tooth. He had a tooth abscess, so I had to take him to have a tooth pulled during all of this. That was a bummer. But they pulled his tooth, and his tooth is completely healthy, so we're not sure. It was a baby tooth, not sure why it abscessed. You could see in the x-ray the adult tooth coming up and pushing up between the roots. And I don't know if that kind of trauma caused the abscess, but his whole face, the whole side of my poor boy's face swelled up, and he was in a lot of pain. So we had the sickness, the abscess tooth, and my dad visiting, and Aaron out of town, and in true Ralph fashion, we had a really crazy week just with all of those things alone. And in the midst of that, we had downhill mountain bike team practice and golf practice, and Aaron was in a tournament, so he traveled up to Bend for the tournament, and that was rough. It was down to the wire whether or not he was going to leave us. Yeah, being a sick mom is torture because you have to, right? You have to. No one else is going to come to the rescue. You just have to get up, and through the worst of it, you have to perform. Of course, there's some times when I'm absolutely bedridden, and I do have older kids, 10 to 12, that are able to help with direction. So that's really been awesome, because when I had just babies and I was sick, I would just sit in a chair, rock the baby, put the baby on the floor, and just sit in the chair, do bare minimum, get up, feed the kids something easy, back in the chair while they ran around, chaos all around me. Usually that's how I've managed sickness in the past with babies. But now I've got bigger kids, and Aaron doesn't work quite as much now, so he's home and has a flexible schedule. He was able to move his lessons around. He gives golf lessons. He was able to move his lessons around and take a day off to take care of me and the family while my dad was in town. So that was a huge blessing. But yeah, it was down to the wire whether or not he was going to go out of town on this golf tournament. What happened was he was not on the list for the golf tournament because he was a low priority with the PGA to be in the golf tournament. But then at the very last minute, a position opened for him to participate. And he said, "It's up to you, Katie, if I go play or if I stay home." And I was like, absolutely, take the opportunity, go play, go play. So he went out of town for a few days and played in a golf tournament. It was a pro-am, so not a PGA on TV tournament, but a Pacific Northwest pro-am tournament. And so that was good for him. He got to go and play, and he got 5th place on the first day, 7th place on the second day, which means he finished in the money. So he made a little bit of money, which was good. It paid for his trip, and that worked out really well. And then while he was gone, he got back yesterday. But yesterday morning, the kids had golf practice, and Riker ended up being too sick for his mountain biking practice because now he's got the cold flu. And then Hagen started getting sick yesterday, so it's just making its way through the family right now. And of course, the kids are sick for about a day or two, and then they're all better. And here I am. I'm still with the symptoms, but no fever, so I'm doing a lot better. The fever is what really wipes us all out. When the fever is kicking, I mean, all you can do is lay in bed on a pillow and moan and groan. That's it. Take some fever reducer. I like to let the fever work. Personally, I don't like to use fever reducers or pain medicines or anything like that. I like to let the fever work, because I feel like letting the fever work makes the illness pass quicker. But I did have to take some fever reducer to function and take care of my family. And wow, when I finally took some ibuprofen, I was like a new woman, totally new woman. And I felt a lot better. And I thought, why haven't I been taking this the whole time? Why didn't I take this in the beginning? I'm just really stubborn. So tell me down in the comments, are you the type to let your fevers work? Or do you take the medicine because you need to do things, you need to survive? I also broke down and bought some NyQuil, DayQuil packs or Sudafed or something like that, but I only took 1 dose of NyQuil or the nighttime medicine one time because I was so tired of not being able of mouth breathing. So I needed something to clear up and dry out so that I could sleep, because I was mouth breathing and it was causing a lot of problems with my sleep. I wasn't able to sleep very well. So yeah, we're on the mend now. My dad is at the airport. He's flying back to Virginia today, and we had a wonderful trip with him despite everything else going on. Unfortunately, like I said, the kids were sick too, so it was kind of just laying low at the house. But when Aaron got home yesterday, as soon as he got home, it was like around 4 p.m. He got home, we loaded everybody up, and we went to the lake to cool off because it was 105 degrees yesterday, and the lake was not busy at all. There was no one really at the lake. So we loaded the kids up, went to the lake a little bit, uh, and loaded back up. And kids and grandpa some pizza, and had pizza on the beach, and they splashed around in the water for a little bit, and then we headed home. But yes, there. Oh, thank you for the. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Katie. Hi, Brenda. Thank you for the prayers. Hi, Michelle. Your connection wasn't unstable. My phone got too hot and it wouldn't let me use it. I had to stick it in front of the AC for a minute and chins of my vehicle so that the sun, the way I was parked previously, the sun was beating down on my phone. Hi, Sharon. Is it still pausing or is it better now? Thank you, Elite Monkey. Yes, I'm a mom to 5 kids. I have 5 children, 5 babies at home. Michelle, you let the fevers work. Yeah, it helps. And I do that. I hate to do it with my kids too. I will use a little bit of fever reducer, sometimes half a dose at night, just so we can all get some rest and give them some relief so that they can get a good night's sleep. But what has really, really, really worked is I have made, and it's on my channel if you guys are interested, I made a brandy, yes, alcohol, brandy, mullein, elderberry, honey elixir. I made it probably back in 2021. It's still good, don't worry, it's still good. The alcohol preserves it. But we've been taking the mullein tincture or the mullein elixir. It tastes like cough syrup, surprisingly. It does taste like over-the-counter cough syrup. And we were taking that to help our lungs. It mullein coats the cilia in your lungs and helps the mucus move out. And you can Google image mullein and go ahead while it's out in abundance and collect your mullein, dry it out, get it ready for sick season. Because if you have a cough and congestion or any kind of lung illness or any kind of sickness that is in your lungs, mullein clears it out. So that has been amazing and worked really, really well for my kids' symptoms, for the cough and for the yucky crudiness that we've had in our chest. It's been like a head cold, chest cold type of flu illness with fever. When the fever breaks, a lot of sweating and that kind of thing. But symptomatically, I make them mullein tea. So I just fill up my tea ball with crushed up mullein leaf and pour hot water over it, add lots of honey to it. And they've been drinking it iced since we've had 100-degree temps here, and we don't have air conditioning at our home. So um, we have a method to keeping our home cool as possible. Because we live in the high desert, our nights get cooled off around 50 to 60 degrees. We're fortunate that our nights get cool, so we open up all the windows of the house. But the problem is we have fires all around us. We have forest fires all around us. So the forest fires are creating a lot of smoke. So to open up our windows and cool our house off, of course, it's bringing in the smoke, but it's cooling off the house. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there. Getting the house cooled off, and then in the mornings before the heat hits, we shut the windows, we pull the blinds, we pull the curtains on the windows that we have curtains, and that keeps the house cool enough. Now our house gets, up into the 80s in the middle of the day, and the heat of the day will get up into the 80s, sometimes 90, but it's cooler than the 100 degrees outside, so that's how we're able to survive this heat wave every summer in the middle of July when it hits. We do have an air conditioning unit for the house, a window. It's like a unit that sits on the floor and it connects out the window to the house. But I noticed the tubing gets really, really hot and it produces heat. The AC produces heat, it's supposed to go out, but the tube gets hot. So it's counterintuitive, basically. We have not broken that out yet this year. Usually every year for about the month of July is the only month when we need to bring in the air conditioning unit. The rest of the time we're able to maintain our house at a decent temperature, but fortunate that we only need an air conditioning or assistance 1 month out of the year. But we have not used that yet this year. And my father, who lives in Virginia. Virginia is very, very, very hot, very, very, very humid. He's been here for the last week and he just thought it was amazing because we have dry heat. So he kept saying, well, I'm just going to move here. I'm just going to move here. And when we would take him, Aaron took him and the kids to the mountain bike practice on Saturday. And it's a beautiful drive to that mountain bike practice. And I mean, every road going out of town a different direction offers the most beautiful, amazing scenic view where we live. And when it comes time to move, if we move, my heart is going to be broken because we really do live in one of the most beautiful places, I think, on the planet because there's just so many diverse scenes all around. So Dad fell in love with July summers in Southern Oregon. He really thought it was awesome. He really enjoyed it. And when we went up to the Lake of the Woods, it was about 20 to 30 degrees cooler than where we live. And we got up there and my dad was like, oh, it's chilly up here. You know, it was 80 degrees, but when it's 80 degrees in dry heat, it feels a lot different than that southern East Coast humidity does. Let me catch up with the chat here. Sorry, I was talking my head off. Hi, Cheryl. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Elin. You don't like to take medicine either. Yeah, let the fevers work. I will take my herbal medicines that I make. I prefer to, if I can, to address it with a natural herbal remedy, a tincture of some sort if I can, and stay away from the mass-produced medications and things like that. And definitely no Tylenol in this house. We don't do Tylenol, no Tylenol. So ibuprofen as needed, rarely on occasion. When I get desperate, and you know, when I get desperate and I do take ibuprofen, I'm amazed at how well it works. And I always think, why am I so stubborn? Why don't I just take the ibuprofen? But in moderation, you guys know me, and here I've been trying to heal myself for the last 15 years from Hashimoto's and trying to do it naturally, trying to do it with modern medicine, and I haven't been successful, and it's led to all these other health problems. Yeah, Sarah, you like to let the fevers work too. Hi, Bonita. Bonita from Cape Town. I always know where you're from, Bonita. I remember you. You're having a huge storm with nonstop rain. We live in a place where it doesn't rain. We have about, what is it, on average 350 days of sunshine per year. We live in the high desert. It's a drought always and forever where we live. So I'm glad that you're having some rain, but I'm sure that you are ready for it to stop, especially if you experience flash floods and scary things like that. The rain can be, an issue. Hi, Javi. Your mom used brandy as well. Yes. So a lot of people will make brandy with lemon, honey, ginger type thing and make a drink with it or a shot with it and take that. I use the brandy and I steep the herbs, the berries, and the honey and everything in the brandy for at least 6 weeks, and then I strain it off and decant it into bottles. So that's what I do to make the medicines that I use. I'm also working on some tinctures to share with you all. I just picked a bunch of elderflowers and I used Everclear to pour over the elderflowers in a jar to make an elderflower tincture. And I need to make chamomile tincture, a mullein tincture. Um, I want to make a lemon balm tincture, some things from my garden. So there's a few things that I have available to me right now that I want to make some tinctures with. And so I haven't been able to do it this week, but I believe I'm participating in a collaboration. I have to find that email and get back to it. But the collaboration has to do with making medicines at home. And so I'll be sharing a video with you all about making different medicinal tinctures and things like that. But if you go to my YouTube page and go to my playlists, I do have a medicinal remedies playlist if you would like to learn how to make some of your own herbal remedies at home from your own apothecary, or maybe you want to start an apothecary of your own for your family to help with medicine and to have different herbal teas and different things for your family in your apothecary, in your own wellness cabinet, so to speak. I do share those things on it's either medicinal remedies or wellness remedies, but there is a playlist specific to health and wellness remedies that I've made at home. And I've shared those with you all. So if you're interested in that. Minna, yes, smoking mullein. I've considered doing that. And I wanted to talk to somebody with firsthand experience of smoking mullein because I know that was a practice in the past. But I didn't know anybody else who did that or had experience with it because I personally haven't tried smoking mullein, but I have heard that it is medicinal in that way. So I'm glad to hear that works for your husband and he hacks up the nastiest stuff when he does that. Because it is another way to get the benefits of mullein and to clear out your lungs. And my dad has a really rough cough. He's got some lung stuff going on, and I did have him drink mullein tea. And the day I had him drink mullein tea, I didn't hear him cough. But not everybody's not everybody is into the herbs like I'm into the herbs, and not everybody in my family believes in the same things that I do. But my dad did benefit from drinking mullein tea, and my kids have benefited from it. So I serve my kids a cup of mullein tea in the morning and a cup of mullein tea in the evening when they have that chest respiratory ick, and it does stop them from coughing all night long, and it does stop them from coughing all day long. Now they'll go all night without coughing. They'll wake up in the morning and they'll be a little bit congested and coughing a little bit, and I'll give them another round of tea, and the coughing everything clears up. It gets all the ick out, and then they're not coughing for the rest of the day. So it really, really, really works well. And mullein is also really good for earaches and ear infections. You can make a garlic mullein ear oil, and you would just warm some olive oil, put some chopped garlic in it, put some chopped mullein in it, and warm that through, and then strain it, squeeze all that goodness, all of that good oil out of the garlic, out of the mullein, and then you can use a drop or two in your ears when you have ear infections or when you have colds and things like that. You can put it in your ears and it will help get rid of all that stuff. Unfortunately, when this sickness hit me, my mullein ear oil was expired, or I was scared to use it. I'm sure it was probably fine because I've kept it in the refrigerator and it's solidified. But then you would just warm it up. I use olive oil. You warm it before you administer it in the ear. You warm the mullein garlic ear oil up so that it's not shocking or painful to the earache. Warm it up and then put, a few drops in the ear, and that helps. It also helps clean the ear and get that wax and any buildup that you have. It helps it move out much better. So That works really, really well. And when I get the throat abscess, I have a recurring infection that I get in my right side when my immune system gets down, and the mullein ear oil is one of the things that I use to treat that. Now, the other thing I use to treat the throat abscess, the recurring, we still haven't figured out what it is, but we do know, if you saw my post, I explained my immune deficiencies, and it makes it really difficult for me to fight ear, nose, and throat illnesses and infections. So I'm prone to getting a lot of infections, and it always happens in the same side, same stuff. And it happens when I get stressed out and my immune system gets low. But the what I use is, and pardon my language, there is I believe it's Wish Garden, or I get it from the natural grocers, but you can get it from anywhere that sells natural remedies and tinctures and things like that. It's called Kick-Ass Biotic. And it is a tincture, and I should make it myself. I just haven't. It's been easier for me to buy it from the store lately. It's called Kick-Ass Biotic, and I use that coupled with oregano oil. And when I start to feel the infection in my throat and in my ear, when I start to feel it happening, I can nip it right in the bud with the Kick-Ass Biotic and the oregano oil. I just add them to a shot of water, two, sometimes 3 drops, because the oregano oil is very, very strong. It will burn you, it will burn your mouth, or be spicy and uncomfortable. So you dilute it, and I mix those together with some water and take that back. Sometimes I gargle it, and that helps get the medicine through the membranes of my mouth and my throat to combat that infection a lot quicker. And it works really well. And this is something that I discovered in the last year, that I can take as soon as I start to feel the throat swelling, abscess swelling back there. Now, I've had my tonsils removed, so we're perplexed. Where is this infection coming from? Could it be from a wisdom tooth pocket? Because I didn't know any better as a child, as a teenager, and I had my wisdom teeth pulled. Had I had the information I have now, I would not have had my wisdom teeth pulled. But I had my wisdom teeth pulled, so it's possible the infection is coming from a pocket back there, but we just haven't been able to get it to stop recurring. Even with, there was a time I went on antibiotics, regretfully. I didn't want to go on the antibiotics, but I was desperate to get rid of the infection once and for all. So I went on antibiotics, and I ended up being allergic to them, and oh, that was awful. I had an all over body, head, my face, everywhere. I had an allergic reaction, and I had these, they started as little spots, but they grew into larger patches, head to toe, all over my body. It was horrible. And so I have stayed off of and avoided antibiotics since then, but I found what works for me is the oregano oil and the Kick-Ass Biotic together. Those stop the infection. Elite monked. I'm not sure what your question was, so if you want to ask the question, I'm not sure. You're asking me what type of job you need. I'm not sure. You're 16 years old. I was a lifeguard when I was 16. I went and got certified. Excuse me. I went and got certified to be a lifeguard, and I became a lifeguard at 16 years old. Why? Because it was the job that would pay me the most as a 16-year-old. And I worked before school when I was a teenager. Now, this is a long story. There was a time in my teenage years I did not live with family, and I won't go into details about the trauma and drama of all of that. But I did not live with family for a period of time. And, but I was working at 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. in the mornings before school. Then I would go to school, and I would go to track practice, and then I would go back to work from 7 to 10 p.m. at night. And that's what I did. That's how I worked. That's how I supported myself when I was a teenager. And I was living with someone else, with an adult with adults, grandparents of friends of mine during that time in high school. And then I finally ended up at my oldest brother's house. He and his wife took me in, and then they raised me from age 16 till I was about 18. I lived with them from 16 to 18. Then I moved out on my own until I was about 25, and then I moved back to my brother's house because in that time from 16 to 18, or no, when I was 18, after 18, around age 21, 22, I bought my first house. Now that was a disaster, and I won't go into details about that situation, but I carried that house into my marriage with Aaron, and we had renters in it, and the renters destroyed and ruined my house. And it was also right before the economy got good, but I ended up selling that house and losing a bunch of money on it, which was a sad thing. But lived with my brother around age 25 for about 6 months or so, and then Aaron and I got married and moved to England and started our whole life together. But my life from age 12 to age 25 was pretty rotten and hard and difficult, and I struggled a lot. But all that to say, to elite monkey or monked, I worked as a lifeguard, and I had 3 jobs when I was in high school. So I had 2 jobs at 2 different places where I was a lifeguard. And then I also had a job at a restaurant, and I worked as a hostess. And then I worked my way up to a waitress at that restaurant. And then I worked as a bartender. And all of that was before I got into retail. And then I worked at an extreme sports store, and I managed a ski, snowboard, wakeboard shop. I was a manager at a mountain ski resort, and I worked at a ski resort at that shop, and I was a manager, and that meant that every day I got to take my snowboard out on the slopes, and every day that I worked, I went and I snowboarded. For my lunch break, I'd go snowboarding, and some of you guys might be shocked to hear some of this about me. While I worked at that shop, I also got into motocross. And when I was 21 or 22, I think I was 21, I bought my first CRF 250 dirt bike, and I started racing motocross. And if you don't know what motocross is, that's when you jump dirt bikes on a closed course and you race them. You race and you jump and you turn and you do all this crazy stuff, but it's in a race format. You're not always racing. We practiced a lot too. So when I was that age, I worked for an excavation company, and I learned how to operate heavy equipment, and I was running loaders, dozers, skid loaders, dump trucks, you name it, and your girl was in a ditch digging gravel, dirt. That's what I did in my early 20s. And I also worked for a landscaping guy, and I helped him with landscaping. And in the winter times when we didn't have work with the excavation and the landscape, I did some electrical work for an electrician. I was just a peon, and I would do electrical work. So I have a little bit of knowledge. That's why I've shared with you guys. I've switched out electrical fixtures and things like that. Nothing major, but I know enough. I know enough about construction and electrical and excavation to get myself by. And then after doing all of that, we moved to England, and I cleaned houses while I lived in England. I worked for a I forgot. I also worked for an environmental remediation company, removing mold, lead, asbestos from environments, from people's living spaces, from workspaces. We were hired to do mold, lead, asbestos remediation in historical buildings. I worked in the Thomas Jefferson Theater in Charlottesville, doing work there. I did work at Monticello on some of their historic buildings there. And this is all in Virginia. And we tore apart people's residential homes, and we put ourselves in hazmat suits in 100-degree weather and went up into attics and used HEPA vacuums with HEPA or with sanders attached to them. And we would sand and HEPA vacuum the rafters in the attics and film and put microban all over it. And then we would encapsulate with a very specific type of paint. So mold remediation, lead, asbestos, all of that stuff. I have knowledge in that as well. And I did do an oat test in recent years to make sure I didn't have any residual contamination in my body that was causing my health issues from that career. I did that for about 2 years. And then something really bad happened at that job, and I left and no longer did that job anymore. Construction for a female, being surrounded by men, is not always safe, and I get it. And I am the first one to say, we're just getting off on a tangent in this live, that, you know, there's not women should not be in every profession, or, you know, women want equal rights, but there's just some things that men do, and it's not the workplace for a woman. And I worked in excavation, and during that time I was safe and I was protected. Nothing weird would have happened to me when I worked in excavation. But when I started working in environmental remediation, I had gotten in some really bad situations. And I don't condone females working in those types of environments anymore. I thought I was a tough chick. I thought I have 4 older brothers. I thought I could handle myself. I thought I could protect myself. And it was proven to me, I was shown real quick that, hey, Katie, you're just a weak little female. And there's just some things that you don't need to be involved with. And so those were my career paths. To answer Elite Monks, you have to go out and get training, and you have to go out and get qualified. You have to, like I said, I went and took training to be a lifeguard. And then I had training to be an environmental remediation. So you have to take those hard steps to do those things to get the jobs that you want that pay the good money, or you have to go to college or school or whatever. So to answer that question, Katie L asks, what things am I good at? So I'm a Jill of all trades, a master of none, and I am good at a lot of things. I'm not an expert on anything except for maybe birth. I am an expert, nearly. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a midwife, but birth was my passion. When I started having children, I had my first baby was born at home. My very first baby was born at home after 27 hours of labor, and I went on to become a midwife's assistant and a birth doula. So that's been my role for the last 12 years, working with women during their childbearing year and postpartum. So that's what I've done, and that's what I've done in more recent years, is support women. And I got started in that because when I lived in England, there was a lot of women birthing alone because their husbands were deployed, because we're a military family, we were on a military base. And so I supported women in birth in England and brought that back here with me to the States, and I ended up working with a midwife as a midwife's assistant. So I did everything, all the documentation, all of the checks. I did the newborn screening. So I would go and see mothers at 24 hours and 72 hours. I can't remember exactly. My brain's a bit foggy. But as a midwife's assistant, I would go and do the newborn checks. I would do the newborn screening. I would weigh the newborn and answer any questions the mom had or any concerns. I would also check the mother, make sure everything was healing well for her. So that was a dream job, but it's on-call work. And once I had my 5th baby, I kind of laid off of the on-call work because it's difficult to find a babysitter for 5 children in the middle of the night. So those were the things those were career fields I worked in. I went from working in construction with men, burly men, and I got a lot of harassment, but I thought I had thick skin. I thought I could handle it. So I went from construction industry and that type of work into the softer side of work of just exclusively working with women and new mothers, one extreme to the next. And I feel like that's made me a fairly well-rounded individual. I much prefer working with women. And High Guard, Norway. I have Norwegian, actually Swedish roots and heritage. Sundstrom is my last name, or actually my maiden name. Hi, Lisa. Yes, hearing about all the things. I've had a very interesting life. My dad and I were just talking about the cross-country road trip I took when I was 18 years old. I just didn't even, I didn't have parents to really guide me. So my parents were divorced, and my father kind of had his own life and wasn't too concerned with what I was doing. So my mother passed away when I was 20. And she wasn't too concerned with what I was doing with my life either because I didn't live with her. Um, so at age 18, a friend and I packed up a little Honda Accord and we trekked across the country and we camped and we made the long drive from coast to coast and spent 56 days traveling around the country. That was fun. And that was when I was 18. I saved up money from working at the restaurant as a server, just a server at that time, a waitress. So I saved up money, and I think I was still lifeguarding at that stage. And I might have been working at no, I don't think I was working at the ski and snowboard shop yet when I took that trip. I think that was something I might have been. I can't recall. A lot of things I did in my life. A lot of things. I used to race motocross, so I was actually sponsored for a period of time and raced of a giant tractor trailer rig. That was fun. You wouldn't know it now. As a wholesome mom that I am now, you would never guess that I was in construction, and I still have an hour. So I made my appointment far away from where we live because I wanted a female doctor. And I had to travel to see this female doctor because I did not like what was available to me in my town. For a variety of reasons, I won't go into details, but I wasn't satisfied with the providers in town, so I've had to travel to get to this doctor. So I'm going to see if this doctor can provide me any answers with why I might be having pancreatitis. In a certain time in my cycle, it always happens in my luteal phase. My flares are consistently in my luteal phase and the first part of my cycle. So we're investigating if there's some type of endometriosis going on. And my GI doctor's appointment is in mid-August. So I'm so grateful because of my hospital admission, they were able to get me moved up 2 months. So my GI appointment was for October, and that's an urgent GI. It took me 11 months to get in to see the GI, or that was the soonest I could get an appointment was October. But because of my recent hospital stay with pancreatitis, they were able to move me up 2 months. They put me on a list for cancellations, and praise God, they were able to get in 2 months sooner than my original GI appointment. So I don't know that they're necessarily going to have any answers for me, but at least I'll be seeing somebody who specializes in the pancreas, who specializes in all of that. So maybe beyond my working the greatest extremely little. So yes, today we're exploring and endometriosis of the pancreas is very, very rare. but it's just one of those things we can cross off the list. And not my case, then that's one more thing that we can troubleshoot and cross off the list. But my pancreas does flare consistently during my luteal phase. So that is something I found interesting. And I've tracked it over the last 4 years, and I have a video diary, so I can look back at my video diaries and look at the dates of those video diaries, because what I'll do is I'll just take a quick video. I'll say, oh my gosh, my pancreas is flaring right now. I'm curled up on the floor. And I have that little quick video blip of me, and I know that my pancreas is flared on those dates. And then I'm able to compare with my cycle chart. I chart my cycles, natural family planning, chart my cycles, and I'm able to look at the dates of my pancreas flares for the last 4 years, now that we know what they are, because I did not know what they were prior to November 2023. And we're able to see that my pancreas flares are consistently in my luteal phase in the beginning of my cycle. So the last 2 weeks of my cycle, and then into the first week of my cycle. Usually it's the last week of my cycle to my first week of my cycle that I'm having these flares. So just going to see if maybe it could be related to endometriosis, which is interesting, but also a very rare thing. So that's what I'm in here today. I'm going to go and talk to a doctor about that, see if that is a possibility and how to get tested and diagnosed for that. I know it's probably going to require an exploratory surgery, which I'm not so sure I'm going to do yet. I'm trying to avoid any kind of surgeries, if at all possible. I just don't want to go down that road. I'm terrified of that. Now, I know that a lot of people with pancreas problems have had great success with Whipple procedures and different surgeries. So we'll just cross that road when we get there. I've got my fingers crossed, and I'm praying and I'm eating the right things and just making sure I'm being very preventative to prevent another pancreas flare like the last one. Now, when I got sick this past week, I had 2 days of retching, and I didn't have anything to throw up, so I was just dry heaving essentially. And that is a symptom of pancreatitis. So no one else in my family has had vomiting with this sickness that we have, but I was having pain in my stomach. I was having pancreas pain in my stomach during this illness, and anytime I ate anything, my pancreas was flaring up and I was retching, as we call it, just dry heaving, which is a symptom of acute pancreatitis. So my pancreas did flare this past week, and that was very scary. I did not eat for a few days. I lost a few pounds again, and I went on a liquid diet. So that is I'm having about a little bit of food, a little bit of solids every day, but it's mostly liquid foods for me right now, just because with me being sick and everything, it causes inflammation in other areas of my body, and my pancreas is one of those areas. So it did get inflamed during this illness, but it did not get severe. Thank goodness it did not get severe. And I was able to recognize that my pancreas was angry and adjust my diet accordingly and just do clear liquids and take it easy on the foods. But I'm back to, I ate a little bit of food yesterday. I haven't eaten today. I had 1 bite of scrambled eggs. It wasn't very much food. I had a little bit of scrambled eggs this morning. But the dull ache is ever present. And so I'm just being very careful and cautious, because I do not want to anger it. The last time, the straw that broke the camel's back was I stupidly, and I know better because hot dogs are disgusting, but they taste so good, right? Oh, hot dogs are so good, but they're disgusting. I ate a hot dog, and an hour later, that's vomiting for 10 days or retching and dry heaving. So I'm just avoiding all the gross foods, all the meats, all the cheeses, all the everything, to let my pancreas rest during this time. And I just know that I can't have sugary, fatty, baked goods ever. And I feel bad about that. I was recently at a birthday party, And it was kind of embarrassing, and it was just an awkward situation because the mom make her fat. That's how I felt and judged. It's me. I am the first person who wants to gain the weight. I've been trying desperately to gain weight. I'm now down a few more pounds. I'm down to 110 pounds and I'm 5'7". I do not want to be this thin. I need to gain 20 pounds. I need to gain 20 pounds and I don't know how to do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it. It's so frustrating for me. So I am the first person that would eat all the baked goods and all the cheesy pizza fatty goodness, and I just can't. I can have a little bit in moderation, but I have to be very careful. And I've stopped seeing everybody's comments. So if you've commented and I have not responded, I cannot see anything past Lisa Hodnett's comment that says, I love hearing all the things. I cannot see any comments past that because my internet is being wonky, and I apologize, you guys. Thank you for the super thanks for those of you that have given me a little bit of a tip while I'm on this live. I appreciate it so much. Maybe I can go get some lunch with that, go get a soup and a salad somewhere while I kill the rest of this time. I pulled into Target after I dropped my dad off at the airport. I pulled into Target and I thought I would run into Target and window shop. I boycotted Target years ago. I thought I would go in there and window shop today, but I just don't have it in me to go walk around the store. I'm saving my energy. After today, I'm going to take a few days and rest because I rested for about 2-3 days while Aaron was able to help me. But I haven't been able to rest and really get well this week, and I'm just so exhausted, so tired, and still a little bit sick. So I told Aaron, today is another busy full day for me, but tomorrow I'm gonna lay in bed and watch a movie and feed the kids easy food. I might pick up a loaf of bread so I'm not even having to bake bread in a machine. It's just, I know it's so easy to do. Oh, let me tell you, the other day I tried to make a loaf of bread with the little bit of energy I had, and I didn't put yeast in it. So I finally remembered at the end of the day, I was laying in bed and I said, oh my goodness, my loaf of bread is still in the bread machine. So I got up and I opened up the bread machine lid and I said, where's my bread? Because usually I can see it mounted in the bread pan. I didn't see that. So I flicked the light on and I looked down in the pan and said, oh my goodness, I forgot to add yeast. I just wasted all those ingredients, and I was super bummed out that I wasted the energy and effort to put all the ingredients into the pan and set it in the bread machine. And it was everything that I had that day to make that loaf of bread so that Aaron and my father would have bread to make the children peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And I biffed it. I totally biffed it and forgot the yeast. So I proudly took the bread loaf out and set it on the cutting board the next morning, or that night. And the next morning, the kids one by one came through the kitchen and they're like, oh, Mom, did you forget to add yeast to the bread? Why, yes, children. Why, yes, I did. And they're smart enough to know that now. And they've seen me forget yeast a few times, and they've seen my hockey pucks come out of the bread machine a few times. So they definitely recognize when I don't do that. So don't forget your yeast when you make your bread in your bread machine. What I need to do is find a heat, or maybe I'll just take permanent marker and do it. But I need to write on the outside of my bread machine, yeast, or don't forget yeast, or add yeast, or something, so that when I open my bread machine lid, I see that reminder, because I always forget to add it because I keep my yeast in my refrigerator. So what I do is I add all the other ingredients, and yeast goes in absolutely last on top of my bread flour. And I just forgot it this time, which is not abnormal for me. I do that. I've done that numerous times. Just forgotten to add it. So, well, thank you guys for hanging out with me. I'm gonna end this live here, and I'm gonna go find, maybe I can find some soup somewhere. I know it's 100 degrees. that's a little sketchy, getting soup from a restaurant when it's 100 degrees outside. And I mean, I know that there's people that eat soup at the restaurants, but I'm just not sure what else to eat, and I'm starting to feel a little bit hungry. I might have to do a Google search to see what is near me, and maybe I can do a takeaway. What do they call it here? Takeout. Excuse me. So in England, they called it takeaway, and that's kind of stuck with me. Here, stateside, we call it takeout. So if I can find an order and get some takeout, then I can have some soup. Sean, I should upload harmless family member pranks. Yeah, I should. I stopped sharing my kids on social media so much. They might show up occasionally in a video here and there, but I have chosen to not exploit my children on the internet. So I'm not going to exploit my children on the internet. That's just something I've come to terms with, or something I've decided in the last year or so, that I'm just not going to. My kids are getting older now. They've got their own identities. They're not quite old enough to consent. They can say, oh yeah, I mean, they want to be on YouTube. Trust me. They love being on YouTube. They love watching the videos back and seeing themselves on YouTube. But and I felt this way before this particular case, but the Ruby Frankie case really drove it home for me that I do not want to exploit my children. A lot of family vloggers make millions of dollars exploiting their children. I'm not going to do that. I'm not that desperate for money, for fame, for exposing my children to complete strangers on the internet. Now, I can consent and put myself on the internet all day long, but they are still under age 18, and they cannot formally consent even if they say they want to be on the internet, if they want to be on YouTube. I am not going to do that to them. I'm not going to expose them or exploit them in a way on my channel any longer from here forward. Now, occasionally you'll see Hagen in the kitchen with me baking or whatever, that kind of thing, but I'm not going to exploit my children and do family pranks. This channel started out as a family motherhood channel and kind of morphed into a Whole Foods food prepping, food preservation channel. And my goal is to keep it a homesteading, food prepping, food preservation type gardening homesteading channel with me as the center, and not my family. But I will talk about them. We do talk about them, and I do share experiences like this recent illness and how I've been treating them. I do talk about that, but their faces you will not be seeing very much anymore, which is a bummer for them because they love watching the older videos of them, and I have yet to make those videos private. My husband is not a member of my YouTube, so yet maybe he should be. So he's not able to, the kids aren't able, they wouldn't be able to watch those videos unless he or and I don't watch my old videos because that makes me really uncomfortable. Once I upload a video onto my channel, I never go back and watch it again. I go back and answer comments, but I do not watch it ever again because I don't want to feel like I made some kind of mistake in that eat at me. So I never watch my videos again once they're up and posted. And even when Aaron and the children are watching a video, if I come out of my room and they're watching a video, I just ask them to kindly watch it when I'm not around because it makes me really uncomfortable. And I can't describe that in any other way than watching myself on YouTube makes me really self-conscious. It makes me feel like there's mistakes that other people in the world have seen that I didn't correct before I posted it, and it just makes me really nervous and uneasy and self-conscious, so I don't ever watch those videos again. But the kids, yeah, they like to see the old family videos and things like that I have yet to make private. But there's a lot on my channel if you guys go back in previous years and want to watch. There's a lot about sourdough. I have a whole sourdough playlist. It teaches you how to make your own starter, teaches you how to bulk batch bake sourdough bread so that you can have freezer bread, so that you always have sourdough bread and you're not having to bake and maintain your starter every single day. I show you how to make 6 to 8 loaves at a time if that's something you're interested in. So there's a lot on my channel from previous years, but things have slowed down significantly on my channel this year. And I hope to get back to it, but between homeschooling my children and trying to make myself better to find healing, the channel's taken a bit of a back burner, unfortunately. But I hope to get the energy to do more on my channel soon. So well, I just said, okay, Linda said, okay, bye. Okay, Linda. But I'm going to sign off here and see if I can find a little bit of food. I've got about an hour and a half or so before I have to be at my appointment. And then I'll head back home after that. And I've got about a 2-hour drive home from where I'm at. I've got a long drive and some thinking to do on my drive home. So thanks for hanging out with me, you guys, through this video. And if you missed it, if you're just now hopping on, there will be a live replay. All of my lives, if you go to my channel, there is a tab up at the top of the different categories of my channel, and there's playlists and the community, and there's lives, and you can go to the lives and watch my previous lives that I've shared with you all. And I might have more lives here in the future. Maybe we'll do a live in my garden and I can give you guys a live garden tour and that sort of thing. So thanks for hanging out with me this afternoon, this little bit of time that I had to spare to hang out with you all, and I will see you all soon. Sooner than later, I hope, right? All right, guys, take it easy. I hope you are well. I hope you are beating the heat. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, I hope you're enjoying your beautiful winter. And stay cool, you guys. I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.